most of these settlers, a lot of these settlers, maybe not these guys, but a lot of these settlers are American citizens. If they were to do this in the United States of America to Ro Khanna, they would be in perma jail. They would be under the jail. Can you imagine if a bunch of masked thugs, not the ICE agents, but if a bunch of masked thugs that have no law enforcement capabilities whatsoever were to do an armed insurrection, a bunch of hogs came up to Ro Khanna and were like, get in the car, we're detaining you. They would be in prison. Even with our current system, even with this administration, they would be in prison. We'll talk about Ro Khanna. We'll start with Ro Khanna here. Representative Ro Khanna detained by Israeli settlers in the West Bank.
Ro Khanna visited Turmus Aya in the occupied West Bank, a village with thousands of Palestinian Americans who have come under repeated attacks by Jewish settlers. Khanna says he became a target as well, detained by settlers and the Israeli military for more than an hour, according to Reuters.
By the way, insane. I mean, this is expected, but it's insane. And we've entered new territory where you don't even have the Israeli military, but actual fucking hilltop youths detaining not just American citizens, but now American representatives, okay, elected members of Congress. In a normal planet, in a normal universe, we lived in a normal universe, this would be considered an international crisis. What the hell is going on? In Israel, it's, a Tuesday. Yeah. Shout out to Cam Kasky, Jasper Nathaniel, and also Ro Khanna for, doing this. Respect. Also, Ugopnik, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream, brother. I don't know what else to say about this other than the fact that this cannot go on. Okay, this is insane. It's complete insanity. What can you say?
I'm certainly probably the first American politician who's been detained by the IDF and Israeli settlers. I mean, we were at a village that Israeli settlers had destroyed. They had destroyed the school. They had destroyed that village, and we were just looking at it. And these hoodlums come in with machine guns, an M4, an American-made machine gun, and they detain us. They block off the road. And then they call the IDF, and the IDF...
Here's the funny part about this, or like the ironic part about this. Are you ready? Most of these settlers, a lot of these settlers, maybe not these guys, but a lot of these settlers are American citizens. If they were to do this in the United States of America to Ro Khanna, they would be in perma jail. They would be under the jail. Can you imagine if a bunch of masked thugs, not the ICE agents, but if a bunch of masked thugs that have no law enforcement capabilities whatsoever were to do an armed insurrection, a bunch of hogs came up to Ro Khanna and were like, get in the car, we're detaining you. They would be in prison. Even with our current system, even with this administration, they would be in prison. I'm sorry, guys. I know we say like, no, not under this admin. If they were ICE, they wouldn't. ICE does this all the time. Okay? But these are random people. They have no law enforcement capabilities. They just have guns that we gave them, ironically enough. Itamar Ben-Gvir gave them our guns that we shipped over there so they could form a militia.
Is on their side, not on the side of the Americans.
Khanna is on a 3-day trip to the West Bank as he weighs a potential presidential run in 2028. Support for Israel in the U.S. has fallen significantly, especially among Democrats, where a progressive young wing of the party has been highly critical of Israel.
I saw the arrogance in the eyes of those settlers, 21 and 22-year-olds with guns, laughing that they had detained us. The arrogance of those young IDF soldiers that my tax dollars are funding. Having no respect for the fact that they were detaining Americans. No respect that there was an American congressperson in that bus. And laughing when our translator told them that there are Americans there and the American embassy is concerned.
Khanna says the issue of Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank will be a moral test for his party.
It is the arrogance of power, of a power that has had no accountability, total impunity.
Ro Khanna is reaching GOAT status at alarming levels, by the way. I'll say it. Ro Khanna is straight up reaching GOAT status slowly but surely at first, and now just I don't know. It's completely out of control.
And has created a toxic culture of oppression.
Like, think about this, man. This is Ro Khanna, the same Ro Khanna, and yet so different. The same Ro Khanna that I had a conversation at the DNC. Remember? I had a talk with him at the DNC. It was public. You can go and watch it. Then another talk here at my house during Christmas time, right around the Epstein files release. It's called opportunism, brother. There's opportunism. And then there's straight up going to the West Bank and then getting detained by not just the Israeli occupying forces, but also by West Bank settlers. You know? Like, please. This is a level beyond. Okay? This is not performative. And if this is performative, I want this kind of performance from every single elected representative. Okay?
Congressman Ro Khanna.
Because how is this any different than when I glazed Chris Van Hollen for flying down to El Salvador to extract information about his constituent, Kilmar Abrego Garcia? This is what I want from my politicians. This is what I want from all politicians. And there were people who were saying it was performative when Van Hollen did it. And I said, no, this is good. Also, he said IDF, not random settlers like the CNN headline says. No, he says settlers too. We can, on the one hand, talk about how unaccountable Israeli settlers are and how dangerous Israeli settlers are on a daily basis, and then make it seem like Ro Khanna going out there is simply performative. We can't do that. You know? We can't be doing that. That's crazy. He is putting his body on the line and shedding light on the some of the worst injustices that are taking place with our tax dollars right now. And as an American elected representative, him doing that is very important. I will not be having any Ro Khanna slander on the timeline, at least for this duration, you know? Who knows where that Ro Khanna cycle might take us, but so far, this is very good. I have a consistent opinion on this. If someone puts their body on the line like that, I'm going to give them the praise that they deserve. Okay? Where's the New York Times reporting on this? Of course, they're too busy covering Plattner's rise and fall revives old questions about Bernie bros and women. Yeah, Congressman Ro Khanna said, in Palestine, I felt first as someone who was brown, he said. We really saw the apartheid-like conditions, the inequality. An American politician is blocked by Israeli settlers in the West Bank. Representative Ro Khanna was barred from leaving for 90 minutes, where past U.S. leaders toured the region to show support for Israel. Today's Democratic presidential aspirants are going to bolster their credentials as critics. Even that's like a cynical byline, I'm going to be honest. Like, oh yeah, he's just doing this as a way to show his bona fides as a Israel critic. You know what I mean? I think the story in and of itself is the fact that they straight up stopped him from moving around. Henn believes that after a U.S. congressman's bus is hijacked by a machine gun wielding terrorist, it's appropriate for machine gun wielding soldiers to detain him. Henn is a fascist. Henn also seems to be historically swagless, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah. Henn Mazik is very mad. My Wario. Jeremy Diamond was there too. Israeli settlers armed with clubs, rocks, and knives blocked our way and attacked us and another group of journalists today in the occupied West Bank at the same location where U.S. settlers beat citizen Saif Musallet to death exactly 1 year ago today. Even Dan Osborne says something about the Ro Khanna thing. I mean, yeah, dude, that's the whole point. Not Jamie Dimon, Jeremy Diamond. This is a different attack, by the way. This is not the same attack. This is a different attack. It just happens. I understand why you would confuse this with the same attack because it happens all the time, all over the West Bank. Impunity. These guys get to do this with no accountability. These guys get to do this with impunity all the time, and they get defended by the Israeli occupying forces. The Israeli government knows exactly what's going on. They encourage it. They're perfectly on board with it. Make no mistake. Okay? But yeah, let's cover this. Israeli settlers had guns, and Representative Ro Khanna was scared. On Wednesday afternoon, Mr. Khanna, the congressman from Silicon Valley who's exploring a 2028 presidential run, was visiting the ruins of Kirbet Zanuda, a tiny Palestinian Bedouin village in the southern West Bank that was abandoned after escalating attacks from settlers and then demolished. Suddenly a car, that's a pogrom, by the way. Like the New York Times is just like kind of glancing over it, but that's straight up a pogrom, right? Suddenly, a car of men holding guns pulled up and blocked the narrow road out of the village. These men began taunting the congressman and his team, swearing at them in Hebrew and Arabic, and kicking the tires off their minibus, according to accounts, photographs, and video footage from Mr. Khanna, an aide, and his security guard. A photographer for the New York Times traveling in a different vehicle also saw the interaction. Soon, a jeep with more men arrived. When the two cars from the Israeli military pulled up, Mr. Khanna assumed the soldiers were there to help him pass. Instead, the soldiers smoked cigarettes, chatted with the men, and after the settlers left, moved a car to block the road, he recounted. I felt powerless in that situation, which is not an easy thing, as I have a lot of privilege in life, said Mr. Khanna, who was eventually allowed to continue his journey after calls to the U.S. Embassy and Israeli police. Imagine how people feel every day. Palestinians under the occupation, if they could make an American congressman feel powerless for 90 minutes. Mr. Khanna said the experience was the most frightening part of a 3-day trip organized by a member of his staff. In a statement on Saturday, a spokesperson for the Israeli military said that, dude, by the way, I just got to say, I'm so proud of Cam Kasky. Cameron is the motherfucking GOAT. Okay? Straight up. The best. Out of all of the Hasanabi heads out there, Cameron might be, he's top in the fucking charts right now. Okay? Second time coming back. First time he went during his short run in New York 12, ironically enough. And I think he could have defeated Michael Asher. I straight up believe that in my heart of hearts. Okay. Rank 1, top rank Hasanabi head, Cameron Kasky. You should all strive to be as cool as he is. Ro and I visited the destroyed village of Zanuda and the site of an EU-funded school that got burned down by settlers. It was here that we got intercepted and captured by settlers wielding American-made rifles. The IDF showed up to back up the settlers, not the U.S. congressman. He's the top dog, number 1 draft pick, straight up. Nadav Wyman says, I was there with Representative Ro Khanna as an expert on settler violence. Armed settlers were the first to arrive, and then, as has become the norm, Israeli soldiers joined them. Together, they detained the delegation for over an hour. The IDF is lying, and not for the first time. Like, this is an incident of international status because of Ro Khanna's position as an American congressperson, right? But this is something that is completely routine in the United States of Israel, right? In the occupied territories, this level of violence, detainment, and far worse consequences for the average Palestinians or even Americans or even Israelis that try to aid the Palestinians and try to put their bodies on the line to block the settlers from engaging in pogroms. Yeah, the Israeli States of America. That is an everyday experience. That's the reason why Jeremy Diamond has a separate instance of violence in a different part of the West Bank, the occupied Palestinian territory. No other country gets to do this. No other country will take our weapons and then train those weapons on our congresspersons, on our citizens even. Any other country that does this, they're getting invaded. This is the reality of apartheid. That's it. This is the reality for Israel. Wait, Jeremy Diamond got attacked again? Yes, it's it's a sad state of affairs, but I feel like Jeremy Diamond is on getting your ass beat by settlers beat CNN. I feel like Jeremy Diamond's existence in Israel is literally just driving around the West Bank until some random top youth try to beat his ass or like throw rocks at his car, terrify him until the IDF comes, and then the IDF will also terrify him further. Jeremy Diamond every other week is getting his ass beat. Every other week. What makes it strange, to me at least, is that the rest of the CNN crew that, live in the United States of America or are stationed in Tel Aviv don't turn around and cover this stuff to be like, hey, what are we doing here? This is terrible. Can you please stop our journalist all the time as you do virtually every other day? What the hell is this? Has Ro been released? Yes. Guys, this happened the Ro thing happened a couple days ago, by the way. He's already in the United States of America. I will be having Ro Khanna on the broadcast hopefully tomorrow, or if not tomorrow, on Monday. Definitely on Monday. I was supposed to have him on yesterday, but he was traveling, so we couldn't make it happen. We couldn't make it work. In a statement on Saturday, a spokesperson for the Israeli military said that it had received the report of Israeli civilians unlawfully blocking the vehicles of foreign nationals and members of the news media near the village on Wednesday. Troops were dispatched and reopened the road, the spokesperson said. Of course. Classic. We investigated ourselves, and I'll have you know, we found no wrongdoing. Shocking. Definitely. I'm so surprised that Israel would find itself Israel would look at the situation and say, hey, actually, this is perfectly valid. Perfectly valid for us. The military disputed that its soldiers had participated in blocking the exit and said that the identity of the armed civilian was being reviewed. At a time when Israel's hemorrhaging support among Americans, and particularly among Democrats, a tour of the West Bank is a new way for progressive politicians to signal their concern. For decades, potential presidential aspirants made pilgrimages to Israel in hopes of burnishing their foreign policy credentials. Their trips followed a familiar itinerary: meetings with Israeli political leaders, sightseeing at the Western Wall, maybe even kissing it. A tour of the Israel city damaged by Palestinian rocket fire, visits with Palestinian leaders in Ramallah, a city in the West Bank. The goal was to demonstrate their commitment to the United States' special relationship with a longtime ally. But where past Democratic leaders headed to the region to show their support, so far today's Democratic presidential aspirants are going to bolster their credentials as critics. Mr. Khanna said what he observed in the West Bank would inform his politics and perhaps his run for president. If he mounted a campaign, Palestinian rights would be a key focus, he said. I have something unique to offer about the injustice of Palestinians, he said. I'm going to go to every corner of America, regardless of whether I run or not, and tell their stories and tell the story of what's happening in the West Bank. Violent attacks by Israeli settlers on Palestinians in the West Bank have intensified since the Hamas-led attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, that set off the war in Gaza. The response of the Israeli authorities have generally ranged from unkept promises to address the problem to blame shifting to outright denial. As Mr. Khanna was being blocked by settlers in the West Bank, Rahm Emanuel, another potential presidential candidate, was speaking at Tel Aviv University, where he delivered his own critique of Israel and a 23-state solution. Rom, what kind of crack are you smoking